August the 1st. Do you know what that means? NFL training camps are officially open. The weather's nice. You're seeing all these crazy plays online. But what's better yet, that apart from football season almost being here, is the fact that fantasy football season is starting to heat up. I know people talk about it all off season, but right now is the time of year when you seriously got to lock in. And who better to join me than the one and only Andy McNamara, host of the Sick Browns podcast. Andy, how are you doing tonight?
Griff, brother, I'm doing good. You're right. Football season, fantasy football draft season is here. It's coming. We are so close to real football. Preseason, this Hall of Fame game this week, Browns versus the Jets. So we're almost there, man.
Exactly. You get to watch one of the most famous Cleveland Brown offensive linemen, too, Joe Thomas, go into Canton this week. It's a week for football fans to not only be excited that the game is back, but celebrate the game. And we want to congratulate to everyone going into the Hall of Fame class of 2023, which includes Joe Thomas, Darrell Revis, Zach Thomas. It's a loaded class going into Canton on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good crew. And Joe Thomas, I have the on my backdrop office, I have the collectible bobblehead that we got from a game where we were actually there when they unveiled the number of consecutive snaps, the 10,000 and change that he had up in the rafters and all that. So for a guy who wanted to win so badly and never even got to go to the playoffs, how sad is that?
Yeah, you know what? It's sad that he played in Cleveland in a truly. It's like not the best time for the franchise, so I'm glad that he's at least getting his due. And it's kind of a showing too that look, the big boys mean a lot to the game of football too. So don't sleep on the big boys.
That's right. So it'll be fun having him going. The whole team, the whole Browns franchise is going to be in attendance. He'll be going on last, number 9, on Saturday. I think it starts at 12. So I think they usually try to keep it in the 4-hour range. So we'll see. But no, it's going to be fun. That really is the kickoff to football season.
It is. It's the one thing I love that they do it because like hockey does it weird where it's like in the middle of November.
Yeah.
Baseball's in July, and then basketball, I want to say May or June, but no, this is the true kickoff to the season. And with that being said, I could ask you a fun question about fantasy football, but I want to get into the stone cold hard facts.
Okay.
What is a fantasy footballer you don't want any business drafting as of now?
Ooh, now that's a great question. And I think it really depends on where you draft somebody, for example. So there are players that, let me see. So for like example, I don't want any period of any Baltimore Ravens wide receiver. Not one, not anytime, not nowhere, not know how. The reason is I don't believe in the quarterback Lamar Jackson, as I've told you before. And 2 years as well. Hey, everyone wants to crown this guy, Griff, but let's face it. If we want to dive into the pond of truth here, okay? 2 years in a row.
Oh, folks, no idea where Andy went. So we're talking about just fantasy football and Baltimore Ravens wide receivers. Andy, don't know what happened there. He dropped out for a minute, but it's all good. Go.
Oh, I'm back.
Keep shooting on the Ravens wide receivers, my friend.
You know what? I bet you it was Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad. He was in the editing room again. He got me, just like he got Baker.
I'm calling that the podcast name, Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad. That's all it's
Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad got me. I'll tell you. Okay, so the reason why I'm not taking any Ravens wide receivers are a couple of reasons. One, Odell Beckham Jr. has not. Griff, I put this out at Sick Pod Browns at Andy MCD1 on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the YouTube Shorts. This is a fact. Let this blow your mind. Odell Beckham Jr. has not been a fantasy football star since Barack Obama was president.
Oh, my God.
Fact. That's a fact. And this guy, they're paying this guy that type of money. He's an egomaniac. He's as most overrated as you can get. It's on a team where defense is still the strategy is to make Lamar Jackson throw the football. And Griff, I'm so sick of everybody I don't even blame the wide receivers that much of going around. Oh, he doesn't have any wide receivers. Well, does Marquise Hollywood Brown, did he look pretty good when he went to Arizona and had a guy who could throw in the ball? Yeah, he did. Is Rashad Bateman, who I know me and you like coming out of college, is he a bad wide receiver? Or does he not have a great quarterback in the sense of a pure passer? That's why I don't believe in any of these Ravens wide receivers. And if some sucker wants to go draft Odell Beckham Jr., have at it.
Yeah, I completely agree on that just because it's one of those things where, like I said, tight end because I would draft Mark Andrews and that's it because he's like Lamar's security blanket.
I'd go Andrews.
But beside like with Mahomes and Kelsey, which we'll get in a little bit, but I completely agree with you on all those takes just because like, look, they always give him the tools to succeed, but then it's like, okay, now that he's gotten paid, you have to prove you're a proven passer.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that
He blames
yet.
everybody else.
Yeah,
everybody blames everybody. Everybody blames. It's never Lamar's fault. Well, guess what? If it's too often it's somebody else, at some point it's you. I'll go with the same thing with the running backs. Here's another thing. J.K. Dobbins, and he's an Ohio State guy. Griff, I'm wearing an Ohio State shirt right now. Okay? If my internet was faster, I'd be on camera with you, but otherwise we turn into frozen robots.
It's all good.
So the J.K. Dobbins I love, but when the top running back on your team is still the quarterback and J.K. Dobbins has missed more games than he's played in the National Football League, you can take that yards per carry. People are like, it's 5.9, Andy. It's like, that's great. He's rushed like 20 times. Like, there's not a big enough body of work, and he's still a secondary guy as well. Goal line stuff. Who's getting goal line? Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson. What's Melvin Gordon going to look like? I don't know. So that's another guy I think is getting way overdrafted in J.K. Dobbins. Again, I would love for him to do well in a different team situation. I think he could do well. Hasn't stayed healthy. I just don't think the opportunity is going to be there for him.
I love that. I completely agree with that, where it's kind of like everyone thinks that Baltimore is going to be that team that takes it to the next level and like, hey, this is finally the year, but like it's going to be that same thing as always. You always end up getting burned by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go to mine because I have a couple in mind, but the one I've been on all off season, it's because this guy's coming off a torn ACL, which look, most running backs right away, coming off torn ACLs, don't do it because they always have a first year back, not a productive, like we saw with Saquon Barkley. 21, okay year, 2022, he exploded. This team's also getting hyped because of who they've added this season. My player to not draft is Breece Hall from the New York Jets. Oh. I still think he'll be good, but I just don't trust it coming off that knee injury. Plus, to this weird Dalvin Cook rumors. I love how we are going for rivalries for like rivals of our teams, but it's just when I even know like with, for example, Tom Brady when he came off his ACL in 2009, didn't have the best year. 2010, unanimous MVP. So I always look to 2024. I'm not saying don't draft Breece Hall. I'm saying he's not, in my opinion, an RB1 or an RB2 at the moment. He can prove me wrong. It's like Javonte Williams as well. He's another player I'll quickly throw in there because of the ACL issues. It's just, I just don't know how the knees are going to hold up right away. I know people like, some Jets fans like to use look at Adrian Peterson. I still think that was a 1 in a million thing to happen.
Yes.
So for that reason, it's Breece Hall. This next player, I think you should draft, but I don't think you should overdraft him. That is Deebo Samuel from San Francisco. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I've noticed this, that when Brock Purdy came in and started, his production levels, and also when they added Christian McCaffrey, his fantasy value went down. So I don't think Deebo's going to be that same explosive player that we saw early 2022. I still think he's going to be great. Don't get me wrong. I love Deebo Samuel. I just think from a fantasy value standpoint, don't rely on him as one of your top dogs per se. And the third player, in my opinion, I'm not saying to not draft him. I'm just not saying, like, I've been hearing all this stuff about first round pick. For me, I would draft him if I could, but not in the first round. It's Travis Kelce. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying for positional value. I'm saying like Kelce should not be your first round pick in fantasy football. Maybe second or third round, but I think first round pick, there's just too many players ahead, which I want to get into with that in a little bit on where I think I want to go personally and who I think should go number one overall in fantasy football drafts. But those are just mine quickly. And also too with Kelce, I think last year he had career years to where I want to see, will he double the production? So it's not saying that he's not going to be good. I just will he be this amazing player that we saw last year, because he literally blew the roof off people's fantasy leagues and won them leagues, you know?
Right. So let's dive in a little bit here. So we got Breece Hall, you say, of the Jets.
Yes.
And I'm with you. The Jets intrigue me, obviously, because the Aaron Rodgers part, but I am a little...
I'd rather go Garrett Wilson if I'm going Jet.
Oh, yeah, dude. I think we talked about last time we were on. I want a stack of Garrett Wilson in the second round and Aaron Rodgers in like round 10 or wherever. Yeah. Because he's going late. I think you stack those, and if Rodgers is what Rodgers thinks he's going to be, that's a dynamite combo, and you're getting your quarterback who, that's a top 12er guy in the 10th round. You can lay out your roster there. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. So on Breece Hall, if we look at it, Well, you know what? Let me ask you this. So I'm going to put this up. Let's go PPR scoring, right? Let's go PPR wise ranking here for
0.5 or 1 point.
You know what? Let's split the difference. I'm just pulling up my little gear here. Let's do half.
Sounds good.
Because then we kind of get the split between standard and PPR.
And you're also not getting goofy scorings of like 200 to like 195 every week. It's going to be more like 140 to like 135.
So if we have this, so the rankings right now, average draft positions for these guys. Breece Hall is going as the 11th running back off the board, 24th overall, which puts him at end of the very end of 12-team redraft leagues. He is ahead of Najee Harris.
Yes.
Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker. I love Kenneth Walker. That Seattle thing's a mess. Aaron Jones, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs, I would take over Hall. And also, too, that's another player to not draft. You remember who on Chicago last year I was super high on going into the year, and he bit me because he didn't do anything, and David Montgomery, who's now in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
That's an avoid. But I like Jahmyr Gibbs solely because that Detroit Lions offensive line is one of the most underrated units in the league as a whole.
And I've been very critical on him.
Yeah, I've been look, the 12th overall pick, I wasn't always keen on. There's another Detroit Lion I like for a rookie position, which we'll talk about in a bit. But when I say Jahmyr Gibbs, I just like the idea of he could be a sneaky player that you could either put in your RB2 or a flex player. I think he'd be a great flex option for anyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm reading here too, just on I said Kenneth Walker III. He's going to be out for, quote, a while with a groin injury.
We can jump to the rookies right away. I think Zach Charbonnet is another good flex guy to get as well, or another bench player to stash.
And he's out right now with a shoulder injury.
That's it too, though.
Boy, that's where it gets. And this is for the fantasy strategy, Griff. This is where it gets interesting because there's a lot of talk. And look, I'm going to fall in line with it. If I had the first overall pick, I would take Justin Jefferson. It's the first year in 10, 15 years. I think you can even question not taking a running back. However, if you get out of those select few, the Christian McCaffreys, Austin Ecklers, Bijan Robinsons, etc., that chunk of, let's say, 6 to 8, maybe even a little less, then you are in full-blown committee mode for a lot of the rest of the league.
Yeah, even last year, my best league that I had, I finished in second place. I went 0 RB and managed to get Nick Chubb, I think, in the 3rd or 4th round. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah,
good job.
It's also a 2 QB league, so everyone goes quarterback. So I took Josh Allen, took someone else. I forget who else. It was Allen, Adams, and then I think Chubb were my top 3. So it's do that because in those kind of leagues you have to get a quarterback immediately, otherwise all the good ones get snatched up.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the Breece Hall thing, I'm not saying don't draft him. I'm just saying I just don't think he's going to be what we saw from him pre-ACL Breece Hall. I still think he'll have a decent season. I'm just not counting on him on being this all-pro caliber running back this year. Maybe in 2024, but not 2023.
Right. No, it's a good note you bring up there. We look at some of the guys just ahead of Breece Hall, and this is one where now it's your team. Okay, it's New England Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson, ADP, 10th running back off the board in half PPR and PPR. Maybe I'm shell-shocked, but from the Belichick and the Patriots way of Bo Scarboroughing things and bringing people right up, out of nowhere to hose you. Yeah. Where are you at with Ramondre Stevenson confidence-wise for a season in fantasy?
So I always tell people this, especially with the running back position, be cautious with New England just because Belichick loves to rotate it around, especially with receivers, even though I do think a guy like Tyquan Thornton can bring great bench value, which, look, expecting a breakout year from here, but that's breakout year from him, but that's another story. But when it comes to that, Ramondre flips the script. I'm in on him. He was someone I had last year. He's the guy that's going to get – here's the thing. Ramondre does it all. He pass catches. He runs the ball. He's able to bounce off defenders. And also, too, he's good to get in the end zone, and he's always good for a couple of those 20 to 30-yard gains at least once or twice a game. So Ramondre Stevenson is someone I'm high on. I like him in rounds 4 or 5 personally. So if you want to go with a 0 RB method, go Ramondre. And before I hit it back to you, you stole my line because Justin Jefferson is a player that if I get number 1 overall, I'm going after. I know everyone says, Vikings are going to regress this and that. Jefferson's just too talented of a wide receiver to see any regression from, especially, I know, with the whole Kirk Cousins stuff, who I'm a fan of now because of quarterback on Netflix.
That's true. He became more likable. He did. Here's the thing. We don't have to believe, and I think sometimes fantasy players at times get caught up with real life versus fantasy. Kirk Cousins can't win a big important game to save his life. I don't care. I don't care what he does if he can get to the playoffs or if it's in a big game. If that dude gives me 25 fantasy points and he blows a late lead, I don't care. The guy puts up a lot of yards. He's done it for a while, and he funnels it to Justin Jefferson. And we talk about tight ends. If you can't get in on Kelsey, I might usurp a Mark Andrews and go right to TJ Hawkinson on that Vikings team.
So like earlier when I said Travis Kelce, I'm not saying don't draft him. I'm just saying for positional value, don't overdraft him because of what you can get and then him. Do you want to know who my tight end 2 is this year? It's someone you didn't mention.
Who?
George Kittle.
Ooh, you're rolling the dice with the injuries, but when healthy, we know.
It's also, too, just the fact that when Brock Purdy was in the lineup, we saw Kittle's numbers go up. So if Brock Purdy gets that starting quarterback job in San Francisco, I think Kittle can end up being tight end 2 in fantasy football this year.
You know what? It's very possible. If healthy, if this guy can do the rarity and play a full season, no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely, no doubt. I am totally with you. The question, with a lot of the tight ends, if you're not named Travis Kelce, is consistency. Because Griff, last year, I think it was PPR. Let's say that for fun.
Yes.
It was between tight end 4 and tight end, I think 11 or 13. There was 11 fantasy points difference between all of them.
Yeah.
It's gross. So that's why I think it depends. I understand what you're saying on the Travis Kelce factor from the standpoint of, if you're picking third or something, don't take Kelce. But if you're, let's say
like
you're
9th or 10th, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, right. Maybe I'm even thinking, okay, if we're looking, I would take Travis Kelce over Cooper Kupp. That guy's on the downgrade. With Matthew Stafford and the injury stuff, I don't know. I would rather gamble on the highest player at a super scarce position like Kelce over Kupp. Tyreek Hill, not personally because of his play, but that quarterback situation with Tua and being one hit away, Griff, that terrifies me. I don't know. I don't know where I want to touch the Dolphins this year because of Tua.
Same. I'm the same thing too. Even with a player like Jalen Waddle for me last year, great fantasy player. I think he was another 4th, 5th round, 6th, somewhere in there. I think he'll go higher, but it's just that draft with caution. Another player I want to draft, but I'm cautious of because of QB injury right now, is Jamar Chase, just because we don't know. I know it's just a calf strain, but that's something that could linger all year long. But who was I going to say as well? There's another tight end that, not because of which I've been critical of this quarterback in the past, and he did get paid, but Darren Waller is a player I want to avoid because even with Derek Carr, he was very up and down. So with a quarterback like Daniel Jones, who hasn't really had a tight end before, it's kind of an interesting thing to see, just because one game Darren Waller can go off and get you 25 points. The next game he's going to get you 4. And so for that reason, I don't know exactly what to think of the Giants, especially too with the Saquon Barkley situation. That New York Giants situation is very tricky to figure out. But if you want,
it is.
The other thing I'll say too for tight ends, for rookies, Dalton Kincaid, I know that he's looking good in camp, but rookie tight ends have never really panned out. Kyle Pitts is a player I'm avoiding altogether.
You still have Knox there.
You still have Knox. Knox
right?
is – yeah, but here's the thing, though. Knox was on a milk carton last year, so I feel like this is going to be a very, very overdue thing, where Dawson Knox has a good year this year. He got paid. Last year was a down year for him. And then the other one is – I'll be honest with you, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think if you want value in the tight end position, especially for a bench tight end, I think Foster Moreau in New Orleans playing with Derek Carr up there is a player to look at too.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not saying Foster Moreau draft him right away, but I'm saying for a bench tight end option.
Yeah. No, I feel you with that. Because I have my strategy if we're taking 12-team redraft, 1 QB, my strategy is always to try to take a backup tight end and quarterback, because then right away I have a safety net when it comes to bye weeks.
Yes, exactly. I always try to line up the bye weeks. And another tight end.
Foster's not bad.
There's even another tight end that we haven't even talked about yet that's close to your heart, and David Njoku.
Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you about David Njoku, and then I want to swing back to the Giants with Waller for a sec later. With Njoku, the thing is, he is still only 26 years old, and he's been in the league 6 years. So he is technically just reaching the prime of your tight end age, typically, historically.
Yeah.
And he's been in the league 6 years. Now, the problem with Njoku has always been, now you look at the guy, my guy, sculpted him out of clay. It's ridiculous. He was a national, he broke records in the high jump in high school, like national champion. It's crazy. Athlete galore. The problem with David Njoku has always been, and I don't know what the reverse of concentration drops is, because when he has like two guys on him, he will catch anything. When he's alone, he'll drop it. I don't know if that's concentration or not, because you'd have to concentrate more with two people around you, but he's had that inconsistency. But in this case, Deshaun Watson, we know it's going to be a way heavier passing offense. You have Amari Cooper. You got Elijah Moore. That's a guy I want on my team. We can talk about him later if you like. Njoku, I want included in there. He falls into the category of really like, okay, if you don't get one of the top tight ends we talked about, David Njoku can be a guy, but like most of the others, you're gonna have down weeks, you're gonna have up weeks. It is gonna be a bit of a roller coaster, but certainly out of that roller coastery group, David Njoku has a lot of upside this year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just want to get your opinion on that. It's kind of like the Patriots situation with Hunter Henry and Gesicki. It's gonna be a lot of two tight end sets. I don't know where to go just because with Mike Gesicki, I feel like it'll be a similar production to what we saw with him in Miami. So I think he's going to be good for a lot of touchdowns, but I'm not banking on those guys getting drafted. And then what do you want to say about Darren Waller before we move on?
Yeah. So Darren Waller, and I'm intrigued by him, and I understand your point because with the Raiders. My only thought is that wide receiver group is so average or below average. I just don't know who the heck else Daniel Jones is going to throw to. If it's not him running or getting it to Saquon Barkley, doesn't it have to be Darren Waller? Darius Slayton on a good team might be a 3. Paris Campbell can't stay healthy. Isaiah Hodgins, no. Sterling Shepard, come on. So it's Darren Waller.
That's the thing, though, but Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy. Jalen Hyatt, I'm kind of like proceed with caution with, but I do agree with you. I'm just saying from the Raider experience, like Darren Waller, someone where I think he could be a tight end, maybe, because I would think about it, Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Hawkinson are your 4. So Waller potentially could get into the 5 or 6.
And you know what? Depending how the point things is, like last year, like I said, there was about 11-point difference between 4 and 13. So it might you still. That's the crazy thing. You think of any other fantasy position group, like the 5th position, you're like, oh wow, with tight end, you can be the 5th guy and be like, I'm getting like single-digit points every week. That's crazy.
That's exactly it. To where it's just like you're like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for them to break out. This kind of ties into the next question, because when it comes to rookie tight ends, there is only one that I have faith in right now to actually be good for fantasy, and that is Sam Laporta from the Detroit Lions at the moment. He's looked good throughout mini camp. He's looked good throughout camp. I think he's a good tight end option if you're getting down to the barrel of it, because I think he's going to be someone that they're going to use. It's going to be like, because we saw from TJ Hawkinson right away. And even another tight end I just thought of now is Noah Fant from Seattle. It's just, that's kind of like, it's just the players coming to my mind. The other thing I'll say is, too, I agree with you on Cooper Kupp. There's a lot of people being like, oh, this is it. This is going to be a good year for him. I think with the Stafford regression, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think he'll be good. I think he'll get his, but he's not a top 6 pick. That's the situation. Like, if I'm looking at Cooper Kupp in the 2nd round, you could talk me into that. Yeah. But the 1st round, I'd rather go in a different direction. You mentioned Sam Laporta, and like the tight end rookie stuff is always a little tricky, depending how they use him. Are they going to use Laporta? And Dan Campbell's old school, so they might be using him more blocking-ish, who knows, right, to break him in. But if they don't, this is a case where, Jared Goff really liked to go to his tight ends. And if you're not, you got Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery we talked about. Amon St. Brown I like, of course. Jamison Williams.
He is suspended for 6 games, though, because remember the gambling stuff?
He's suspended for 6 games. So I'm wondering, and you have Marvin Jones, nice possession guy, steady Eddie possession guy, move the chains and fall down at this stage in his career.
Good bench.
So maybe Sam Laporta is somebody, Griff, you get, like, if you look where he's being drafted, he is the 19th tight end being drafted, 163rd overall. So, like, you just wait. And if you get Sam Laporta, maybe it's something where over the first 6 games he pops a little bit. Maybe you can use him as trade bait before Williams comes back. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you can get a little I like that idea.
Yeah, just something I thought of because I know there's been a lot of hype around him. And then going into the rookie class as a whole, because there's a couple rookies I want to talk about. But there's one that I think will be good, but I don't think is first-round pick worthy, and that is Bijan Robinson. I think he's going to be a great running back. I just don't think you should waste a first-round pick on him. I think maybe just because my thing with that is I feel like with a lot of these rookies, like there's so much pressure put on them to succeed that you can't like it's not. I think football is a different sport to where. Look, I think he's going to be good. I just think that when you look at the first-round pick options, like you got, and also to the Jonathan Taylor situation will factor into this as well, wherever he ends up. That's why New England, I say right now, I'm confident in Ramondre. But if the Patriots for some reason end up getting Jonathan Taylor, because I still think they're in the market for another running back, that's why I say avoid Ramondre. Different. But with Bijan, I just think for positional value, like unless you really want to go for it, I just don't know. Just with Atlanta, I feel like it's another team where people think because of they like had a good offseason that they're gonna make this leap when I still have New Orleans as being the favorite in that division. So that's just my thing. I think Bijan will be good. I just don't think it's fair. People already coming out and saying, offensive rookie of the year, like first round fantasy football pick. I just think for him, that just don't set yourself up for failure more than anything else. Like if you can get Bijan Robinson in the 2nd round or the 3rd round, go ahead and do it. But I'm just saying from the perspective of first round value, I don't know if it's worth it in my opinion.
You know what? Atlanta fascinates me this year. Let's talk through this for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Because for the Atlanta Falcons, and Griff, I don't know what to make heads or tails of this, okay? Because Arthur Smith, word out of camp is.
I think his job's on the line.
Say it again?
I think his job's on the line.
Oh, well, on the line. Yeah. Well, I think it is too. And I think what goes to it is stories out of camp is they're going to have some weird, funky college style where the offense is positionless. So, if we're here, okay, and by that, are we going to see a whole bunch of different combinations? I think it'd be interesting to see, but you have Desmond Ridder at quarterback, Robinson in there. Do you now, with a young QB, want to lean on Robinson, but then opposing teams know that? Where does Kyle Pitts fit in? Here's where I'm interested in it. I'm with you. I don't want to reach on Robinson. I think I would take him end of the 1st round. I'll say this. For my backup quarterback situation, like in the 12-1 QB, I want to get Desmond Ridder, Griff. At the end,
like that.
I want to get him at the end. He's got the legs. I liked him coming out of the draft a couple years ago when he came out. The reason being, first of all, 6'3", 215. The guy's built like a QB. He's got the arm talent. He can run. He uses his legs, but smartly uses his legs. And the words coming out of the combine was that this guy, they said, I thought I was talking to a 30-year-old. He's super smart, very mature. And if you don't put too much on his plate, and if they have this kind of fluid, weird offense in Atlanta, then maybe we see a lot of RPOs. Maybe he's running. They're going to be down a lot. He's going to be pat. I'm not saying I want him to be my starter, but I want to have him on my bench because I want to watch. And maybe you get lightning in a bottle at some point.
I think if you can get him in the 10th round or the 11th round, I say do it. I just think with Bijan too, when I say all this stuff, with Travis Kelce and Bijan Robinson, I want to clarify something before people come at me. I'm not saying don't take them in the first round. I'm saying if you have top 5 in the 1st round, I don't think you go after them. If you're back half of the 1st round or early 2nd round, yeah, sure. But I'm saying if you have 2nd overall,
yes,
don't jump at Bijan Robinson. Don't jump at Travis Kelce.
I agree.
Wait until say if you're I would say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's the area where you can go ahead and take them. Don't do it if you're top 6 or 7.
Yeah.
That's for both guys. Just so the internet's being he doesn't want you to draft Travis Kelce.
He hates them. Yeah. No. Now, I would say this too. And again, depends on Jonathan Taylor because players do get kind of pushed up. So I'm with you for Bijan kind of the back end. But then if we look at it, okay, we talked about Cooper Kupp, right? We talked about the questions with that you have to consider around any Miami player with Tua, because the backup is Mike White and Skylar Thompson. That gets ugly real quick. Now Tyreek's a freak, so maybe you can hedge it there. But then we have Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill's a question. Saquon with the injury history is a question. Jonathan Taylor, where he's going to go. I like Stephon Diggs, but do I want him at the end of the first round?
No,
I don't know. So then you have to start thinking, where does a Bijan Robinson come in based on positional scarcity for true starters? Yes. And that's where it kind of gets interesting. As you start eliminating people, it's like, okay, well, where would I take him?
That's it. That's exactly it. Like even other players I look at too, like for example, Gabriel Davis, I think is a player that like got caught up with playoff hype where everyone's like, look at him in the playoffs, that one game, 4 touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. I was high on him last year. I was getting
Bundy games.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's a player who I think had the one good, like he had a good first game when they beat the Rams, and then he had that cuckoo game where they beat the Steelers. But besides that, Gabriel Davis was kind of a player where it's like, what are you doing? Like that's the thing with him. So I feel like with Buffalo, they have a complement of weapons. Even with them with their running backs, that's a position I've always found to be like a bit of a weakness for them, where they haven't really had a solid running game. So we'll see what happens there. But at the same time, too, you can never really. I'm not saying anything bad about Buffalo. I'm just saying, like, from a dig standpoint.
Dump on him. Why not? You're a Pats fan. Dump on him.
Yeah. But the other thing I will say, too, when I'm not dumping on them is I don't like the people that are saying, like, I've seen some people say they're going to be like 9-8 or they're going to like not win the division. Buffalo's still winning that division. I still think they're kings of the division. So. I just don't see the world like with and you're going to hate me for this because with the Browns right now, I'm going to say this. Remember the hype the 2019 Cleveland Browns were getting when OBJ came to town? And
I sure do, Griff.
And the first game, you guys got cooked by Tennessee. So I'm just saying.
I sure do.
With the Jets, look, your first week is against Buffalo. That's a game where if the Jets do not look good, it's going to be overreaction Tuesday to the moon for them. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah. But going back to the rookies, there are 2 wide receiver rookies I like for fantasy value because I think they're going to get used a lot, especially because their wide receiver rooms besides that aren't the best. One is Tank Dell in Houston, who apparently CJ Stroud had drafted by the Texans. I'm not thinking the Texans are going to be a good team, but I think they're going to be that team that might catch some people off guard and kind of win a couple surprise games.
Got to throw it to somebody.
Yeah, that's the thing. The other one too is this is a team where I feel like there's hype. I drank the Kool-Aid on them 2 years ago, and I'm not doing it again until proven otherwise. But I like Jonathan with the Carolina Panthers because let's be honest, I think Terrace Marshall is going to be a player that's going to be on his way out after the season. Hopefully New England. It's been a thing on the podcast. DJ Chark, I don't really trust that much from a fantasy standpoint.
I think we know what DJ Chark is at this point, right?
That's it. Yeah. He's a Dennis Green player. He is who we thought he was.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Adam Thielen, who's more of a slot type receiver. So I think Jonathan Mingo's a guy who's got speed, and he's going to be out open in the flat for Bryce Young. So I think the 2 rookie quarterbacks can really benefit from their receivers. And as it goes for Smith and Jigba, look, I think he's a good player, but I think when you're competing against DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who, by the way, is a very underrated wide receiver in the league and for fantasy, I just don't see it where a room where Smith and Jigba is the one in that locker room as of yet. I still think it's DK Metcalf.
Oh, yeah. For Keeper Dynasty, I want some shares of Smith and Jigba for sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm just referring to like a regular
yes, 100%. Longer term, yes. Because I could see them, trying to move on from Tyler Lockett next year or something like that,
Yeah.
But for this year, I think it's one of those cases that maybe if you see progression in real life, it'll be like positive, but fantasy-wise, he might flash a couple games, but there's going to be some single-digit stinkers in there too.
I also have one other player that I love because he's been showing out since minicamp. Quentin Johnston for the LA Chargers. Just because we all know Keenan Allen can't stay healthy. Mike Williams is proving to be the same. Quentin Johnston looks like a beast out there for the LA Chargers. So I think that's another wide receiver you should be targeting in fantasy. I think he's going to be a player that's going to be like a later round pick that is everyone's going like, oh my God, look at this guy go.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus too, you got the new contract to Justin Herbert. We know they like to throw the ball. Yeah. Keenan Allen's on the downside. And in the past where we looked at okay, well, you have Josh Palmer as kind of the handcuff type of thing. Yeah. Well, now Quentin Johnston's kind of that handcuff, and he's going to be a starter. So that's a better position to be in.
He also can get up and play. And And that's the other reason why I think he's just a big body. That's something that the LA Chargers have not had at wide receiver in a very long time, is a big body that can get up and make catches.
6'4", 215. Yeah.
Yes. Is there anyone you like to have a bounce back season, not only for or not even a bounce back? Let's either say a breakout season for fantasy, because I like the player you said earlier for your Cleveland Browns and Elijah Moore. I think he's getting a fresh start. I like him. Another player, you know who I really think is going to shine this year? I know we were talking about them earlier. I love Chris Olave for a fantasy, for a wide receiver too. I think he had because I know of Garrett Wilson last year, like his numbers went unnoticed, but even with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, he had a great season. Now he's got a true quarterback in a Derek Carr. I'm excited to see what he can do. Michael Thomas, I'm kind of like a proceed with caution with.
Oh, you know what? I will err, Griff. I will err on the side of Michael Thompson having the best season in the world and still be fine with it. I'm not biting. I'm not biting on Michael. Be healthy for a full year. Don't be weird with whatever your little injuries and situations are, and get back on the field. Then I'll talk to Michael Thompson. Until then, I will err on the side of, you know what, that we talked about earlier. Player I want no part of, Michael Thomas. No way.
Yeah, it's
Olave's interesting. That's an interesting play with Olave. I think that's a bit of an under the radar one, and he's going to be on my radar.
One in New Orleans.
I think so too.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is another one for the New Orleans Saints as well. I think Alvin Kamara, too, is a player to avoid just because I feel like Jamal Williams is going to steal those red zone ones, kind of like what we saw with Alexander. Because here's the thing. I feel like it's going to be like, you know how last year Alexander Mattison was the one getting the red zone touches? Same thing with Tony Pollard and Zeke. Same thing with Williams and Kamara. Kamara is going to be your heavy downs back, but your short yardage situations, it's going to Williams. You
know what? I want to draft Tony Pollard early. But the injury stuff, it spooks me a little bit. He's going to be the head guy, and he's still, he's on pace to come back. But is this thing in Dallas slated to go committee if Tony Pollard is slow to get underway? He's just, he's franchise tag. They don't have a long-term commitment to him. Like, I could see, or if he's a little slow going back, they just kind of go committee. Like, I want to believe he's the guy, but after that, you got Malik Davis, who, and Deuce Vaughn looks like a baby out there. He's going to get 5'5" murdered. Like I'm scared for him. Like, I think this guy might die on the field. Like, but Malik Davis, like, is it Malik Davis? Like, I don't know. I'm a little spooked by the Dallas backfield.
I'm also spooked by Dallas as a general. The only player in Dallas I would trust to draft is CeeDee Lamb. Besides that, I don't know if I really want to go after anyone.
No.
Maybe maybe Jake Ferguson at tight end. But, also, I have another player who I want to avoid. He was good on Dallas last year, but I think this year it's going to be a different situation. That's Dalton Schultz. I just don't think going from Dak Prescott to C.J. Stroud. I know there was that clip of Dak going viral or the under threw the receiver and threw a pick, and everyone's saying Dak in midseason form. But I'm just like, with Dalton Schultz, I just don't think you're going to see the same. I think he's going to be good, but I just don't think you'll see the same production levels as you saw in Dallas with him, as you will in with Houston.
No, especially rookie quarterback. You don't traditionally in that high level of college work with tight ends that much. Doesn't mean can't become a safety net guy. That could certainly be the case. But I agree with you. I'm with you. Jake Ferguson falls into that category where, he steps up, and we have seen success with Dak Prescott using tight ends. So I don't want him to be my starter, but could he fall into I'm going to have him as a backup and see how it goes category? Yes. That could be interesting.
Do you have a fantasy sleeper, by the way?
Like the sleeper app? Oh, you mean the, like a sleeper overall?
Yeah.
I know. I'm going Elijah Moore. And I think this guy, the more I think of it, Griff, the more I listen, watch, go to my Cleveland guys for, on the ground who are watching every day. Him and Deshaun Watson love each other. We talk about Amari Cooper, and he's going to be your steady WR2 numbers, no doubt. But the difference is with Elijah Moore, they're lining him up in the backfield. It's not Jerome Ford taking the backup reps from Nick Chubb. It's Elijah Moore. Sometimes they're on the field, and this is practice, preseason, whatever. But you have to still look at what they're doing and lining up. Elijah Moore is in the backfield. He's taking sweeps. He's taking end arounds. He's lining up outside. He's lining up inside. PPR, I want Elijah Moore on my team, and I'm going to think in my mind that if I can get flex value out of him, it's a success. But I think there's a world where this guy in PPR, with all the different touches he can get, could pop up into a top 3 wide receiver. Not a 1. Let's not get nuts here. No. But Yeah, I think this could be a big shock in a positive way for PPR because of the touches for Elijah Moore. So that's my sleeper guy. I don't mind maybe even reaching a little bit on.
What about Donovan Peoples-Jones?
I love DPJ. Oh my God. You know what? That's a guy who has been super quiet in camp. And Griff, I haven't heard much about him. It's the end of his rookie deal. He is nowhere near reaching his potential. I hope him and Deshaun can connect because I think the sky's the limit. He's also a very willing blocker as a wide receiver downfield. This guy's he just plays football hard. So I really like him. I truly hope he does. Maybe we'll have to see a little bit as more camp goes on. But today, August 1st, I'm fading on Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I hope I'm wrong, but right now I'm fading him. I would take Elijah Moore as the second Browns wide receiver on your fantasy radar.
All right. And mine is a player that we love here on this podcast. Mine is a player that I think because of the Jonathan Taylor situation will get used more, and that is Michael Pittman Jr. for the Indianapolis Colts. I think, look, because him and Taylor came in the league in the same year, and Pittman Jr. has always been kind of a quiet production guy, but I think with a new – and also with him too, this is the thing with him. It's his fourth year in the league. It's his fourth quarterback that he's going to be playing with, so we'll see what happens. Right. But when Pittman Jr. has had his chances to flash, he's flashed. Like, I don't know if Alec Pierce is wide receiver 1 material. I think he's more of a slot or wide receiver 2. But I think Michael Pittman Jr. can emerge as the wide receiver 1 for the Indianapolis Colts this year.
I think he will be there. That quarterback situation just has me terrified, man. Like, he could be the top wide receiver, and I fully expect him to be. But what does that mean for our fantasy team? You know, like,
they're going to be – the Colts, I feel like, are going to be a team where either they're going to be like 2-15 bad, or they're going to be a team that, you know, maybe they screw around and they win like 5 or 6 games. Like, it's going to be one of those – like, they're between like a 2-6 win team. I just think 6 is being generous, but I think they'll be that team where – look, ever since Andrew Luck's retired, we don't know what we're going to get with them. 1 year, they're a playoff team. 1 year, they're just missing out. And 1 year, they're terrible. So, like, with the Indianapolis Colts, pretty much, you don't know what you're going to get. I think Shane Steichen has faith. I just don't want to be like, hey, he was in Philly. He had Jalen Hurts. So it's going to be the same thing with Richardson. Maybe in, like, 3 or 4 years from now, but I think right away, don't assume that. I just think that Pittman Jr. can be a player that, look, if you want to take a chance on, go nuts.
Yeah. You know what? Like, if the price is right. If the price is right, he's there. Again, just like the Houston thing, you're gonna have to throw the ball to somebody.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to throw. You're gonna be down a lot. You're gonna have to throw back. I've always loved the talent of Michael Pittman Jr. He has been hosed by a quarterback situation there. So, if the draft price is right, sign me up for Michael Pittman Jr. Sure,
like maybe around 7, 8, or 9, somewhere in there.
I'd take him there. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, guys? We'll have to do this again, probably closer to the end of the season. Maybe even I can have Andy come on and I can have him like grade my draft or something like that.
Ooh.
Not in the YWC Football Talks Fantasy Football League where Andy's hoping to get that second-year championship, but we'll see what happens.
You know what we need to do, Griff? We need to get like a ring sponsor or something. We need to backdate it to get old Andy some jewelry here.
We do. I gotta look at that. So if you're listening to this or you're watching this, if you want to send us the money to do that, please do so. But anyway, guys, that's gonna wrap it up here. This has been episode number 236 of YWC Football Talk. Oh, but before I go, guys, I tease this on Twitter. I have a huge announcement.
Oh,
as many of you guys know, I'm going to SummerSlam this weekend in Detroit, Michigan. So there's content coming there. Don't worry. Lorenzo's and I, we're teaming up. We're gonna make a lot of podcasts, including one that's long overdue. But, as you guys also know, I'm involved with Crier Media, a company that sends me to things like the Toronto Argonauts games, the Canadian Open, the Honda Indy, et cetera, et cetera. Well, guys, as of yesterday, apart from having a ticket for WWE SummerSlam, your boy has a media credential for WWE SummerSlam, so stay tuned for content from there. I'm not promising anything at the moment, but there may be some big things coming to this channel, to this podcast, to my socials. That is the thing to look out for, guys. Your boy is accredited WWE media member this weekend in Detroit, Michigan. Oh, it feels so good to say. I've been holding it in since yesterday.
Oh, congrats, bro. Look, you got to get in the ring. Open challenge. Get at somebody.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm trying to get to some events, guys. If I can get interviews with some wrestlers, I can. By the time I get into Detroit, their press stuff is like early Friday morning. I'm leaving here Friday morning at around like 9, and it's about a 3.5 hour, 4 hour drive from where I am. So I'll probably get in at like probably closer to like 1 or 2 o'clock, just because look, Mandy and I know the 401's a highway you don't really want to mess with. So we'll see what happens there. But, guys, I just wanted to let you know, your boy, accredited WWE media member this weekend.
Let's go. Good man. Congrats, buddy. Have fun.
Very much, I will. But anyway, guys, so that's wrapping it up. And also, guys, make sure to check out CFL betting article will be up Thursday for this week 9's games, and I will be back at it next Sunday at BMO Field when the Toronto Argonauts take on the Ottawa Redblacks. This has been episode number 236 of YWC Football Talk, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day whenever you're listening to this, guys, and always remember, take Andy's draft advice, #AskAndy.